What do you need to know about parasites as a breeder? There's a couple of things I want to share with you today. The first one is you've got to realise something about pregnant bitches and parasites. In an adult dog of normal health, very few parasites, I'm talking here about roundworm, hookworm and tapeworm in the gut, very few of those intestinal parasites ever make it to adulthood in a healthy dog because their immune system keeps most of them at bay. Now, they can still get infected though from their environment, from fecal contamination in the environment when they're playing with their toys on a yard where the poop hasn't been picked up very often. So those larvae they pick up from their environment don't ever make it to being adults in the gut. Instead, they sort of go to sleep in the tissues and go dormant. But what happens when a bitch gets pregnant is that all those larvae wake up and enter the bloodstream, and from the bloodstream they go straight into the placenta and straight into the puppies that are sitting in her uterus. So puppies can be born with roundworm or hookworm this way before they've even taken their first breath. Similarly, roundworm and hookworm larvae will continue to go through the bitch's milk into puppies when they suckle. So puppies that don't get wormed regularly when they're with you, the breeder, will end up being the classically wormy puppy with the big pot belly and the skinny little body. And those puppies, apart from not being very good for their health, they are a serious public health hazard. Small children from the ages of 0 to 4 years old are particularly vulnerable to these puppies. That these puppies will be shedding massive amounts of parasites into the environment, and little kids with their underdeveloped immune systems can actually take up those larvae, and those larvae can end up in their eye, in their brain, and cause permanent damage to those children. So as breeders, we have to make sure we're not selling wormy puppies out into the world. That's the first thing. So, you should be worming your bitch at mating, and you should be worming her in the third trimester, like weeks 6 or 7 of pregnancy. And you should worm her whenever you worm the pups during suckling. So depending on the formulation you use for a puppy wormer, we'll be worming our puppies at 2 weeks old, 4 weeks old, and with some formulations 6 weeks old, and then again at 8 weeks old. And when we do the 8-week-old one, we should also be covering them for tapeworm. So what about adult dogs? A lot of vets will recommend to owners that they use a backline spot-on formulation that nukes everything. It kills intestinal parasites, it kills fleas, it kills lice, it kills heartworm, it kills ticks. So a lot of our owners and our customers are using these backlines thinking they're doing a really good job of taking care of their dog. But the problem with that is we actually need some parasites in our bodies, in our guts, to be healthy, for our immune system to learn how to tolerate a certain level of invasion without getting too excited. But we do know that in humans, autoimmune conditions are on the rise, and they certainly are in dogs as well, where the body itself attacks its own tissue. And we also know that deliberately infecting humans with intestinal parasites, for example hookworm, can actually help reteach the immune system to calm down. So we don't have that information about dogs, but we do know autoimmune conditions are on the rise in dogs. And I suspect that part of the reason for that is that we overworm them too much. And if we just let them have a few parasites, if they're healthy, that's all they're going to tolerate anyway, then we could actually be helping their immune system to function better. You know, we all know about the relationship between gut health and immunity, and if we are too clean and we nuke everything, then our immune systems will actually not function as they're meant to. You think about it. You know, we've got millions of years of evolution behind ourselves and our dogs, and during that time they have evolved to live harmoniously with their parasites. The problem that arises for modern dogs is when they're stuck in a small backyard and the backyard is littered with feces and they are exposed to much higher levels of parasite larvae than they would be if they were in the wild. In the wild, you know, they'd hardly ever encounter feces and they would try to avoid them. Like we all species tend to avoid their own feces for good reason, exactly this kind of reason. So if you want to avoid that problem, then you need to tell your owners and also practice yourself cleaning up dog feces at least once a week, because it takes more than 7 days for the eggs, the intestinal parasite eggs that are in those feces, to actually hatch out and contaminate the yard. So if you're picking up your feces every Sunday, your yard will not become super contaminated, and as a result you won't have to be worming your dog over and over and over again, and that will end up with your dog having a better chance of being healthy. So I hope you found that interesting, and bye for now.